Welcome, friends, to another Wolff Responds. I want to call this one Trumpism, what it all means. If you're like me, you've been amazed and thrown back a bit over the last several weeks since the inauguration by all of the noise and all the drama and all the television moments that have poured out of Washington, D.C. Tariffs, deportations, Trump is going to run for another term, laying off huge numbers of workers without any explanation beyond references to efficiency, which nobody takes seriously or ought to. And what probably rose in your mind, it certainly did in mine, was what does it all amount to? Is there something going on here that could make sense of what's happening? Is there some way to explain the big loud noises that keep coming? And I think there is, and I'd like very briefly to present it to you. Here we go. Every empire in the long history of the human race, the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians, all of them, have had a ride up, period of years, sometimes quite a few, when the empire was being built, when the empire grew, when the empire prospered. And that was inevitably followed by a peaking and then a long decline of the empire. The United States has basically operated a global empire for the last century. During that time, it was pretty nice to be on the ride up, at least for those people who enjoyed the ride. Not everybody, not by a long shot. But for many, it was. Jobs got better, incomes got better, standard of living got better. The working class had to fight hard for those things. The employer class blocked it, delayed it, stopped it every chance they got. But they couldn't prevent the mass of people from fighting successfully for at least a rising standard of living. And I want to argue with you that when the peak happens in every empire, including ours, when you stop growing and prospering, then everything changes. As our empire grew, we put military bases, 700 of them around the world. Nobody else could do that, typical of an empire. Our currency, the US dollar, became the global currency, typical of an empire. Our ways of dressing, our ways of doing politics became models copied by many others around the world, typical of an empire. But now the dollar is being challenged more every day. The military prowess of the United States is less and less. The wars in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Ukraine, are not being won. They're being lost. We are a declining empire. And that, I believe, explains what Trumpism is. In every empire that has gone down, something happened which I believe is happening now and which explains Trumpism. What happens in every declining empire is that the people at the top, the richest, the most powerful, are in the best positions to hold on to their wealth. All that they accumulated during the rise of the empire, they are in the best position to hold on to. so that even though the empire is going down, they hold on to their extraordinary wealth. And here's what that means. If the rich and the powerful don't see a decline for themselves while the empire as a whole is going down, then the burden of the decline falls on the middle and lower classes who are not in a position to protect their wealth, modest though it may be, from the decline. Now, how does that explain Trumpism? Here we go. Mr. Trump is famous for lowering the taxes on corporations and the rich. He did that in his first administration in 2017. At the end of 30 to 40 years, when wealth had been redistributed from the bottom and the middle to the people at the top, the crazy wealth of the Warren Buffetts, of the Elon Musks, that kind of thing. The richest people didn't need a tax cut. They had been doing better and better and better beyond everyone else. But Mr. Trump gave them a tax cut. It was the most important single piece of legislation he got through. That's really important. What else is Mr. Trump doing? He's firing large numbers of federal workers. There's no reason to do that. The efficiency argument is nonsense. There were more people being fired than any efficiency study had recommended. In any large corporation, if you want to become more efficient, you hire an efficiency company. They come in, they study, they take some time, they get the experts, and then they come up with suggestions. Anyone interested in efficiency knows that's how you do it. That's not how Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump are doing it. They're in a big rush. That's why Elon Musk stands there with a chainsaw. That's what they want. They want to get rid of working class people, stop paying them so they can keep the tax cuts for the rich. And you know, when you fire tens of thousands of public employees, they have to go looking for jobs in the private sector where they will compete with the people trying to hold on to their jobs in the private sector. And that's going to lead to all kinds of difficulties. For whom? For the middle and the working classes and the poor. That's what's going on. That's what Trump amounts to. A whole program to shift the burdens of a declining empire onto the middle and the lower classes. Mr. Trump wants to take away collective bargaining rights for federal employees. That's the beginning of an assault on the labor movement so that they can't fight for higher wages and will have to accept lower wages. And then we get to the tariffs, which are going to make everything that comes in from outside, the coffee in the morning that you drink, the sugar you put in the coffee, the avocado you smear on your toast, the automobile you buy and need, they're all going up in price. The inflation's coming back. And who does that hurt? Yeah, the middle and the bottom, whose real wealth is diminished because their wages and salaries don't keep up with inflation. You know how that feels. You've been living through it for the last several years. Trumpism is the way rich people at the top want to manage the decline of the empire. Hold on to all they have and let the rest carry the burden. If they start a war with China, you know who'll fight the war? The children of the middle class, the working class, and the poor. Overwhelmingly. That's another cost of a declining empire. Here's my conclusion that I want to offer all of you. If we are going to come out of a declining empire in a decent way, we have to face up to the fact that that's what's going on. Instead, we have a bunch of leaders who are taking care of themselves, and that's all. Mumbling about a greater America that they're going to bring back. No. That's beyond their power. Every president in the last 11 promised to bring manufacturing back and to revive the economy. None of them delivered on that pledge. Mr. Trump isn't going to either. And as for being a decent, patriotic American, let's conclude with Mr. Musk, who shows it all. The man has $400 billion. He's the richest man on earth. If you took $100 billion away from him, he'd still be the richest man on earth, but we would have $100 billion with which to do something to make life better for the American people. If he were half the patriotic American he pretends to be, he would have insisted on it rather than holding on and pushing for even lower taxes and more profits, which is really all he does. That's what Trumpism is all about. That's what makes it reasonable to see the noise and the chaos and the dramatic TV ops for what they actually amount to. If interventions like this strike you as worth thinking about, worth talking about, worth making part of the conversations we're having in America, then please share this video with others who might be interested, who might agree, disagree, but thinking about it is a worthwhile way to spend your time. And of course, if you can help us cover the costs of doing this, it would be enormously appreciated. And it's easy to do at our website, democracyatwork.info. Thank you.